All right, joined now by the support for Splyce, Aror. Aror, you guys are already at a better record than you were in the spring split. You're sitting at 2-1 now. What's the team morale like now that you've found some success?
Yeah, it's actually really good. Like you said, we already won more sets than we did last split, so that's a big positive. We're able to close sets out this split so far. We've already closed out 2. We could only close out 1 last split. So yeah, it's helped team morale a lot, and everybody is just meshing really well. Being in person with everybody here is just making it super easy to do that.
Is that the biggest difference between spring split and summer split for you guys, being in that team house environment, all living together right now?
Well, us being together and like practicing and doing everything together in person helps a lot for sure. But I feel like just the time that we've got to play with each other has also helped a lot, because Divios and BaRRaCCuDDa bring different play styles that people are not used to, I feel like. And I guess my play style is kind of different as well. So just like bringing a new jungler in and getting him accustomed like to how we play and like what we're doing exactly, and like to work him into the system basically took some time. And I feel like having the time of all of last split and then moving into this house together and practicing in person has helped a ton. And those are like the 2 biggest things that are making us look a lot better.
I mean, you guys certainly look very good, not just better, but like a really, really solid squad right now. But you're going to be going up against another really solid squad in Spacestation. What are you doing to prepare for a team that looks really, really dominant so far?
I mean, we're just keeping it same old scrimming. Obviously, looking at all their games that they've played this split, it's a lot nicer now that there's been like a couple weeks in the SPL. You can go back and actually watch their games, see what they did, and see if there's things that you want to take out of their games, and you can kind of like see tendencies and just prepare for them that way. And then obviously practicing in ranked, practicing in scrims, just same old, basically.
Everyone was talking about Baskin during the spring split, and for good reason. But honestly, for the summer split, it's kind of felt like Aquarius has been a huge part of Spacestation's success. Is Divios ready to play against the Chang'e, and what are you going to do to shut down Aquarius?
Yeah, Divios is for sure ready to play against Aquarius. I mean, we're just going to take it step by step. I mean, we're going to see what they pick and ban. We obviously don't know what they're going to play yet, so we have our strategies prepared, and then we're going to go into it and do our best.
All right, Roy, thanks very much for joining us. Good luck for the rest of the week.
Thank you.
Well, that was our interview there with Aror, support for Splyce. Thanks for joining us back at the SPL. Finch here. I have Ryan Agro-Bailey with me as well, and it's always great to get to hear their thoughts. And Auror's right. They really do seem so much better now that they've had a chance to like work together and really get to know each other better.
I think that is the entire difference basically for Splyce. That and just teamwork, working together more often, getting more reps together, understanding what your teammates are going to do in any given situation is absolutely critical at this level. But man, I'll tell you what, to have that kind of opportunity to live together and to play every game together, to just spend all your time together, look, it's intimidating a little bit. There are some of my teammates during my time that maybe I wouldn't want to spend that much time with, but when you're clicking on all cylinders, you have an opportunity to really get to know these guys on a personal level, and that does, whether you think so or not, I think that's a huge impact on how you actually play the game and how you actually play together on the battlefield. That does help in my mind.
And it's not just that they're getting a chance to play Smite more together. Listen, we all love Smite, I think, a lot, right? Smite's one of my favorite things in the world right now, but they get time to do other stuff together, too. Just get to know each other better as people, have a little bit of a breather every now and then away from the game, and I think it helps you come back a little more refreshed.
It does.
And be be even more impactful on the thing that's very important to you. So I think it's healthy to have that variety, and this is giving them some of that as a unit.
Look, for every 10 ranked games you play as a mid-jungle duo, one conversation about what's going on in your life is almost equally as helpful. Sure. I really feel that way. Like the connection that you have with your teammates is absolutely critical, and that's why the teams that actually like each other and spend the most time together usually end up performing pretty well. I'm looking at Team Rival. That's a bunch of dudes who just like hanging out with one another and also happen to be pretty good at Smite and maybe not so good at first, but ended up being really, really good down the line. Those sorts of things happen much more easily when you're spending a lot of time together outside of the game. It's a totally different part of things that is really, really important.
When you have your backs up against the wall, which doesn't happen to Rival much anymore, sure. but when it does happen, those guys are they're comfortable with each other. Comms don't go silent. They're making sure they're still working together, and maybe Splyce getting a little bit of that here now, which they're very much going to need going up against Space Station Gaming. That's who their opponents are going to be here, Ryan. One of the top dog in North America, but one of the top dogs in the whole SPL, and really 5 stars in their own right now. I feel like Aquarius is absolutely here now, and to the point where I stopped saying it. That's how here he is, right? We just take it as understood.
I mean, you heard me ask Aror about it. For my money, this has been the guy so far in the summer split. He's been the one doing the heavy lifting so far for Space Station. I think that's the best thing that could have happened to Space Station, is have someone step up and make it look like it isn't just the Baskin show anymore. And I think andinster stepped up his game so far in the summer split, and Aquarius really has done just that. And so now in your game planning against Space Station, you can't just look at, okay, well, what's Baskin going to play, and how is Space Station going to play around Baskin? But you have to be ready for what Aquarius is going to play. What's andinster going to do to help out Aquarius? Or maybe he's going to leave Aquarius on the island and start helping Baskin. What do we do? And we haven't even started talking about the duo lane yet. Like, that's the challenge that Space Station presents you with.
Yeah, this is how you go full Golden State Warriors, because the finals are still on my mind, right?
Pretty
this
much,
is how you this is how you have everyone's a threat at all times from any point in the map, and it's just so difficult to deal with. But it sounds like we are just about ready to move into game 1 and take a look at these picks and bans between Space Station and Splyce. What a test for the boys of Splyce. They've been doing so well. I believe they're 2-1 right now, right? They've gotten 2 set victories. To see if they can come in and grab another one against Space Station, it would be so big for them and really shake things up in the standings.
It really would. This would put Splyce on the map as a true North American contender. I think that a lot of people would say ahead of schedule. I think a lot of people did have high hopes for this team, but might take a little bit. Maybe we'll see them in fall split, something like that. If they win this set, they are here now to play in the summer split. Now, they didn't do too well on their first test, which was against E-United. That was the best team they played so far in summer split, and it didn't work out for them. But they did look pretty good overall, so maybe this is their time to shine against Space Station.
And sometimes matchups are just a thing. Maybe there's something on E-United that just doesn't work for them, but they might come out and look really good against Space Station. So I don't want to take too much away from them losing to E-United. Obviously, they'd have preferred to win, and, you got to be able to beat the people in front of you, but, matchups are for real, and maybe they'll match up a little bit better here.
Yeah, it's true. Cerberus, in response to that Chang'e pick by Space Station.
Great.
Space Station just continues to first pick this Chang'e, and I think it was me who was saying on the desk last week, until you prove to me that you can beat it, I'm going to do it. You have to prove to me that you can beat up on this Chang'e and that it's a bad first pick and not just a great counter pick option. I've got no problem with them going back to it here. This is a 3-game set for a reason. You can afford to drop game 1 and come back with a better plan in game 2.
And obviously, Cerberus has a good matchup here into the Chang'e. Cerberus has potential to go solo with the Chang'e because of some of his innate anti-heal or heal thievery, whatever you want to call it, heal steal. Do we have a stat for that? Heal steal? I don't know.
Heals stolen.
Heals stolen. Either way, Cerberus does that.
He does.
So he has a good matchup here to the Chang'e. And then Scylla, that's great setup. Staging into him brings him right to a spot, and Scylla kills people in a spot. So that's good. I like that.
And the Erlang Shen. Now, this is a little bit risky because Chang'e does have that innate anti-heal herself.
Right,
she doesn't steal it like Cerberus does, but the Moonflower Dance does do excellent anti-heal options, and the Erlang will feel that with his ultimate, but at the same time, this is Splyce doing their homework with the Scylla pick. I don't think any other team besides SSG has really been playing a lot of the Scylla selection. Now you've got great setup with the Cerberus, number 1. Erlang Shen provides great setup as well.
Yep.
And it's something that Baskin has been playing a lot of, specifically when SSG select the Chang'e. So I like this pick from Splyce. Seems a little bit wonky to pick it this early, but it's because of what Space Station's been doing.
Man, you're right about all that, but I'm just thinking the best like Scylla, which is just true.
That
he just
is
plays
true.
a ton of Scylla. So, I mean, you're right. It works on every level. Not only does it hurt the Space Station draft, but we know Splyce's best can play it at an excellent level, too. And he's got plenty of setup, which I always want to see when you have the Scylla. Make sure she can hit those big Ima monsters, and she's got multiple opportunities to do it. As Splyce takes an eye towards banning away the Geb and the Thoth, with Athena already off the board and the Geb banned away, this limits some of Jeff's options.
It does. I'm looking at the Ganesh as an option. I'm looking at Kumbhakarna as a potential option. Things that can peel pretty well for this Chang'e, because you're going to need some additional front line, or you can just double down on the healing and peel that way, and that's the pick for the Sylvanus. It does feel good to get an additional healer alongside a god like Chang'e because now Rod of Asclepius, if it wasn't good enough already, gets that much better.
You might be able to pick up Rod of Asclepius if there's no healers. That's just a good item.
That's just a really good item.
It is
for sure. So I think this is smart. I love the ban phase, though, from Space Station. Just as I was saying, Splyce clearly paying attention to what Space Station's been picking and banning. That Neath has been a pick now for Cyclone for a while, and it's great additional setup for that Scylla in the mid lane. What?
Where is this Scylla going? Is it Scylla solo? Maybe it's raw solo.
What?
Maybe it's raw solo.
Could be raw solo.
Divios might be playing raw solo.
I think it's raw solo.
Me too. Scylla solo doesn't make sense. Raw
but
solo makes
also,
sense.
what?
But also why?
Yeah, like what? Okay, so the why is that you're getting a free laning phase against Chang'e. You don't have to worry about any pressure there. And you're trying to pick a god that can outdo Chang'e in the late game. Is Ra that god? We'll have to wait and see. Divios has played the solo Janus before, back when Janus was first out. So the dude plays a ton of Smite. I expect he's got a ton of hours on Ra.
Yes.
But also, what?
I'm telling you, though, this is about as Splyce as you can get, right? To throw this curveball here when you thought the draft, you thought you knew what was going on. You almost never do. Now that you got a chance to see this one, Ryan, I mean, I'm putting you in the spot.
It's cute. It's cute.
Does it work?
But andinster is just like, cool, I guess I'll live in your lane now. I've still got SSG. But it threw me for a loop. I'll say that much.
All right, well, let's end up seeing where everything goes. See if it is going to be Space Station as we're thinking here on the desk. We'll let Tom and Tully take it away.
Hey, thanks a lot, friends. Tom and Tully on the commentary, like he just said. Shout out to John Finch. So this is very interesting. Tully, where in the Smite manual? There is no Smite manual.
There is no.
But where is it that it says that you must have a mage in the middle lane, a hunter and a support in the dual lane, a tank in the solo lane, and an assassin in the jungle? Where does it say that?
Doesn't. It doesn't specify. Even if you read the fine print, you won't find it there either.
No, and just so you know, we've updated our privacy policy. But the meta is also updated. And here's basically what I'm getting at is that the players have created these expectations. And if you're going to go Chang'e into that solo lane, Chang'e, when she was first played against the tanks, was built tanky. And then when Chang'e was played against the Aphrodite, wasn't built tanky because Aphrodite's not a tank. So now we're seeing it come full circle where if you don't go tank, I don't go tank. Putting a mage in the solo lane and foregoing a second tank was an issue when the enemy team has two tanks and you don't. The problem is, this is all well and good. The problem still is across the way there's a Mercury.
The thing is, yes, there is a Mercury, but there's an Erlang Shen on the opposite side. So who makes their presence first? Felt in the solo lane is going to be a big way that this game gets told.
Sure.
Between both andinster on the Mercury, global pressure, so a little easier for him versus Cyno on the Erlang Shen that is more than likely going to get Blink, which is why Space Station Gaming was afraid of the Neath. They banned that away in the secondary phase.
Well, right now, let us know who you think is going to win this game. Should be an interesting one. Because as I said, both of these teams forgoing the traditional 2 frontline, 3 backline, and instead going for 1 true frontline with 1 true tank, and then sort of a mix and match of 4 backliners and this idea of a mid-type character like these Ras.
The thing is, between both Ra and Chang'e, they can be a little bit flexible with how you want to engage.
Right.
Chang'e is more straightforward about engaging. andinster, though, he didn't get his dash. Had to get the mage look for the damage to clear the wave, and he's getting abused with this early rotation out of Splyce.
Aquarius in some trouble as well. And Splyce's group up has been good.
Yeah, this is going to disrupt andinster from getting his own speed buff. Cyno, sure, is not done with this play quite yet.
Yeah, Cyno going to keep chasing him down. Aquarius has to pop the active,
slow.
which is a big deal. Still can't find the kill. Now, here's the thing. You can say Splyce are doing a good job because they're keeping Space Station off of the farm, but they are also keeping themselves off of their own farm as well, Anatoly.
The only thing they're losing is a mid-wave off of this because they're stripping away the blue to compensate. Aquarius had to back, as did andinster. Look where he went. He went towards his back left camps, avoiding his own speed. He's assuming that the speed buff's already gone.
Well, I mean, that's the Splyce did eventually get the kill. In air quotes, as you like to say. They got the technical knockout, right?
Yes.
They sent the player back to base, which allows them to get the blue buff. If they just bring Chang'e down to half HP and she stays in lane, that is probably a net loss for Splyce. Very important that all of that exertion winds up sending somebody back to base, because like I said, if it doesn't, totally, we're in a world of hurt.
And andinster just now hitting level 2 as Cyno should be hitting level 3 once he gets his own speed buff. They didn't strip away the speed out of Space Station, but andinster is playing as if it's already down. So whether it's a kill or not, whether it's an invade or not, it's working just as effectively. And Splyce don't necessarily have the goal lead quite yet because of this dual lane pressure. Look at all these archers unkilled.
Yeah. All of those archers are the ones voting for Splyce. 18%. Well, y'all at home think that Splyce is going to take the victory, and so many interesting things in this game already. And I want to sort of approach what we were talking about the metagame and how to set the board, if you will, right? We're getting aggressed on, but I don't think he'll wind up in a kill. Meanwhile, Cyno in the enemy jungle want to keep andinster down here. We see two different responses to this world. Space Station and Splyce seemingly have a meta where they're going to go mages in the solo lane. They're going to forego the tank. So Cyno picks the Erlang Shen, which he's been doing, and will be a pseudo tank in the jungle. So now you have 1.5 tanks. Whereas Space Station goes the opposite and finds a Mercury, which is somebody that's going to murder the mages. So you have basically the, I'm sort of filling the role, and I'm going to punish you for making that choice. Two different sides of the coin to react to the same meta.
Oh, and the dual lane BaRRaCCuDDa just barely getting knocked up. A lot of pressure from Space Station Gaming because of the Sylvanus pick. Those AoE basic attacks working out beautifully. Aquarius not in range to steal this away, as Cyno is going to continue to steal away the second blue buff thus far, and that hurts a lot in this mage versus mage matchup, especially a Chang'e that has very short cooldowns to be able to compensate for her lack of burst damage early on. So that's why Aquarius goes for the meditate.
Now this is definitely, I was just going to bring that up, great point there. Not a good thing to not get your blue buff. By no means am I saying that's okay for a Chang'e. But between the bunny rabbit and the meditation, as long as Aquarius intelligently uses this relic, he should be okay.
It might be a situation where Aquarius might need to think about investing in a mana chalice if his third blue buff gets stripped away, because the experience gap for Divios is starting to get a little out of control. He hits level 5 first. The rotations is going to be a lot quicker from this Ra. Yes, Chang'e gets increased movement speed while she uses abilities, but the Ra passive is significantly faster and for a longer duration.
Yeah, with Chang'e, you have to spam cast your abilities to actually get that movement speed, and in practice, folks, we don't do that. Ra, on the other hand, pops all three of his abilities and then zooms through the jungle, and in practice, many folks do that. So, and a continued conversation, if you had the blue buff, Aquarius might burn those abilities to traverse the map, but especially without the mana renewal from that buff, we won't see that rotation happen like that.
And this team, Space Station, is just so powerful across all cylinders because, look, even though andinster just now hitting level 5, as Cyno's probably going to hit 6 off of this wave, the pressure from Jeff and BaRRa is able to still hold their own in the dual lane, trying to deny a lot of gold between them.
Cyno gets wrapped up. TheBest going to answer back. Interesting ultimate from andinster. Thought that he could just, I guess his plan was to just try to delete Cyno there, because he knew that BaRRaCCuDDa was local, and he knew he didn't have any personal help himself. So Andy thought he had the damage, but certainly didn't.
He also knew that Cyno's beats were down. It was still down for about 20 to 25 seconds during that engage. Space Station communicated that to andinster as Aquarius uses that involved blue buff yet again, being stripped away. Divios and Cyno able to control the right side of this map, and andinster wanted to trade out ultimate for ultimate. As long as Cyno uses that ult defensively, well then the rest of their teammates can breathe easily, not having to worry about this taunt.
Purple buff is going to be taken by Splyce. Jeff was positioning like he might get cheeky there. That's why I held my tongue, but not going to be the case. Cyno and his solo lane Ra. And I mean, solo lane Ra, it's funny because as we make our way from the meta and look at these mages in the solos, Ra is one of the original solo mages, right? I mean, this is something that when you were playing solo, this was something that you kind of had to have in your arsenal to a certain extent.
It has the range to be very safe between not just the Celestial Beam, but also the very short Searing Pain combo. So if you're getting zoned out, as long as you're level 5, you could still clear the wave very quickly. It's never a true zone. You could drop the heal at the melee minions and just run away. Just tag them for the experience and the gold, as Aquarius is going to get hit for quite a bit of damage. Those pen boots receiving that extra power versus Aquarius' cooldown.
that was half the HP with a single first ability.
It's only level 8 raw, so that's not even maxed out quite yet. And with the build from Divios, it leads me to believe he's going to go cooldown reduction elsewhere with those pen boots.
Andy not able to find that one off the bat. Chronos Pen is a very powerful item, 100 power on it in addition to the super CDRs. Might see that one come out later on. And boots are done. Now I'm really interested to see where the build goes, because I was talking as if these guys were not going to build full tank. And I maintain that we will probably see maybe 2 tank items. I really expect to see more mage-friendly builds here, because like I said, it's a Cold War. You only need a tank if the enemy's a tank.
Ultimate out of Cyno forces the beast from andinster. 4 versus 4. Both supports right around this corner. That's why the Neath was so important to ban away during these scuffles.
Oh, JeffHindla burns the ultimate. Not a good look, because he doesn't have it available to get rid of everything Splyce throws his way. Divios, the best, and everyone combines for first blood. But Baskin answers back, sends the big one right at Divios.
Oh, the rest of Space Station feeling themselves. They're tired of losing their blue buff. Aquarius wants revenge, but the turtle gives enough of a shield to survive.
The best and Aror are here local. Can strip this one away.
That's his first blue buff the whole game.
Aquarius. Kudos. Aquarius gets his first blue buff of the game just shy of 8 minutes in. Warlock staff will be the choice for Divios, and this is
it's going to be a long laning phase. Put it this way: mage versus mage. Chang'e is now going to get more healing once you max out that first ability. You're not going to try to make any sort of action happen. With both of the warriors' blessings evolved, makes it a little bit more difficult for these junglers to really start ganking them. That's why I thought for a moment that we could see potentially Breastplate of Valor now thinking about the junglers, but the health almost as effective, if not more, towards the later stages.
Well, you know, I've spoken to a lot of the solo laners, and especially when Guardians were very, very popular, I asked them, you know, straight up, Warlock staff. And almost everybody said, ideally I'd build a Warlock staff, but I'm just not in lane for that long. I have to, like, that's not what we're able to do. And the answer is always because of Baskin in trouble, have to beat. And here comes the jungler. andinster wraps one up. The ultimate from one is good enough. Well, the answer from the best is one step better. Splyce. Find number 2.
Those beads that use... Oh, Best doesn't have the beads either. Almost able to take him out as Baskin's going to get hit by the ghastly breath into the paralyzing spin. The root is good as well. The knockup from Cyno around the corner. 2 unresponded kills out of Splyce.
Loving the gameplay from Splyce specifically because you can tell that this team has worked specifically on becoming a better unit.
A lot of execution and cohesion between these teammates. Everything needed to line perfectly. If Aror is not there at the split second to apply the slow, he doesn't hit the stun. If Cyno's not there to get the root and the knockup for not only Baskin, but initially onto andinster that was without beads for about 40 seconds from that blue buff scuffle, that 2 kills is putting Splyce on the board. But look at this, the gold. Despite all the early game bullying, despite being up 3-1, it's still very close, and I'm still looking between these 2 hunters as CycloneSpin has been under his own tower line almost the whole game.
He's been having some trouble, you know, dealing with what Jeff and BaRRaCCuDDa have been able to do, but luckily for him, the rest of the squad is performing admirably across the map. 2 assists already for his support player, and kills on literally everybody else. Not too concerned there. Warlock staff finished up by Divios, and Aquarius going into that pseudo tank build with the Ward Stone into the Void Stone that I mentioned earlier. And basically my conversation with the solo lane was we'd like to build the Warlock staff, but I don't have the luxury because my opponent's going to punish me. And this is that response where, all right, we're both mages now. How are you going to punish me? The answer is you're not going to punish me, so I can go into this. You know, and that's the bigger conversation from where we started with the draft when I said, if you're not going to go a tank, maybe I don't have to go a tank.
That's true.
Because if the enemy team doesn't have 2 frontliners, then all of the downside, right? You're matching fire with fire.
You just got to play your build at the moment. And currently, Divios is trying to stretch this game out, whereas Aquarius is thinking about the moment of now.
Yeah.
You're seeing immediate results from the Void Zone because you get immediately 60 protections and a good enough 20 penetration aura. So your low cooldowns are going to be felt more and more. Look where Aquarius is for the flank, though.
And Cyno's going to immune the knockup from JeffHindla with the beads of his own. Ultimate out of Divios, going to drive down the middle. And now JeffHindla in a ton of trouble. Ultimate out of Baskin, not good enough to find a target, but Andy finds Cyno. The hot hands out of the Mercury are
Oh my
big.
goodness, Baskin is still not done. He's giving the portals to the north side while chasing out Aror. 2 dead Splyce members, only losing Jeff. Best taking a lot of damage. Andinster cleaning up that one.
He gone.
The heal, not enough.
Divios makes sure to show up and make sure that at least there's a trade. It's a 3 for 2 after an extended engagement. Andinster and Jeff fall down, taking care of the core members of Splyce. Cyno, the best, and Aror all sit down, but 2-1-2 for Cyno, 2-1-0 for Divios. About a half-level lead on Divios, about even on Cyno.
And Aquarius' ultimate was just now available. He didn't have it for that team fight. That could have been the turnaround that they really needed to not have to lose Andinster, to not have to commit so deep under that tier 1 tower. Divios probably would have been another casualty, so Aquarius has to be more mindful about just throwing those away during the laning phase or even defending his own blue buff off screen.
Yeah, I mean, that ultimate can be very, very big. You can see a true tank item being built by Aquarius, so not quite subscribing to what we were talking about earlier. Aquarius will be going into the pseudo-tank role.
Probably going to be the Breastplate of Valor, already with 10% cooldown reduction with Shoes of Focus, adding another 20% to make that Waxing Moon up more common. It's not a bad look to make this utility solo laner still be useful in the mid to late game stages, just as a warrior does. A warrior gets in the thick of things, and Chang'e can do that too if you build her that way.
Andinster just wants to be killing people. Katana, boots, and that's it. Now we're going into crit, baby. Very soon we're going to see Andinster really start to swing. Divios and Aquarius battling it out here, and Divios 38 stacks on that Warlock staff. Going to go back to base. I am so invested in this solo lane, Anatoly.
The thing is, Divios is able to really just out-rotate
Void
Aquarius
Zone.
every time. The mobility you get from the raw passives is just too much to handle. A very short Celestial Beam combination, and he gets the Void Stone. He won't even miss a single minion, but Aquarius proxying between Tier 1 and Tier 2. This is his moment to make the rotation first, but Divios is ignoring the right side. He's making this rotation.
And he dodges the best, just barely. Aquarius crossing the street from behind the Tier 1 tower. Going to be joining the party that's on the left side, which Divios already has mentioned. JeffHindla, half HP, trying to escape. Here comes the best, going to look for Aquarius, wrapping him up. Just misses the root. Splyce had the tools, but couldn't find the targets. So they'll have to walk away this time.
Divios at the right place at the right time, but he was just off the mark with that ultimate. That's the unfortunate thing with the persistent gust. Sometimes you're like knocked up in an awkward angle, and I don't think Divios was anticipating that because BaRRa was dead to rights in midair.
Tough stuff there to see what Divio's trying to deal with. Still a very slight lead on him, a very slight lead on his enemy jungler, but the bigger leads in middle lane. Baskin, no surprise, level 14, highest in the game, tied with his jungle and his solo lane, who also has a lead. Or excuse me, his hunter, who also has a lead, 2 levels above CycloneSpin.
We always talk about the mobility of Janus in team fights, but getting from Camp A to Camp B in the camps also adds up with the experience department, and that's what Baskin's been able to do, establishing this 2-level lead. It's not necessarily the gold that matters, but just being able to help out Andinster transition away from that early game, both mid and jungle out of Spacestation, getting the thick of things.
Divios now trying to battle this one out against Aquarius, dancing through all the damage that Divios has to offer. Andinster says hello, but says goodbye. And right here, this is such an interesting matchup here. BaRRaCCuDDa versus CycloneSpin. trying to see who has the open window for the Gold Fury, while at the same time still get their farm.
CycloneSpin with red buff, not interested in this team fight. Very uncharacteristic of how he used to play the solo lane when he was always looking to either just straight up fight or look to bait somebody in a bad engagement. But that's just the difference between solo lane and the hunter position, and looking to make a little bit of an ambush play with BaRRaCCuDDa in the jungle. But CycloneSpin too patient for that. Sitting at 0-0-0 as a Jing is not uncommon in the SPL.
Not at all. Jing kind of just chills out there, uses the passive to rejoin, and then later on just kind of does
a lot of damage.
The hunter stuff.
Being able to chase you down once you use the agility, you get that Fatalis effect that makes it very easily to chase down a lot of low health members, and andinster's now the one invading the speed as opposed to how it started off the game.
Cyno's mad, but the enemy team love this call from Space Station. Invade the speed and look for the gold. Aror going to be zoned out. CycloneSpin able to show his face and really just not take away anything else. Space Station Gaming with the first Gold Fury, 3,000 gold in the lead.
Andinster was the sleight of hand that Space Station needed to secure that one. They had eyes on Divios, they had eyes on TheBest. Between Searing Pain and not having to worry about I'm a monster, that was a relatively free, calculated call. Even Aquarius was there, making sure that if there was some sort of contention from Aror or CycloneSpin, that Waxing Moon would deal damage to the Gold Fury and probably stun any incoming Splyce members.
Waxing Moon does damage in its own right. I think that people always remember getting stunned by the Chang'e ultimate, but they don't remember being stunned at how much damage they took from the Chang'e ultimate. I mean, at max level, to just put scaling into perspective, at max level with this Warlock staff, you're hitting for 600 pre-mitigation.
It's doing a lot of damage for sure, but you're more worried about a lot of these lower cooldown reductions because you're getting 30% between the two completed items from Aquarius. So more often, Waxing Moons is what it's going to be about at a Space Station, trying to utilize not just their heal between Chang'e and Sylvanus, by the way, but the utility of the root, the pull, the potentially 5-second stun if all 5 Splyce members gets hit.
That's really the goal. Now, will he find the goal? That remains to be seen just yet. Space Station maintaining their little lead. And Splyce obviously hoping for a different outcome. But right now, I'm not too sure. I mean, look at Divios just taking this fight to Aquarius. Not concerned whatsoever.
He has more health with the Warlock staff, and that's what he's going to abuse every single time. He doesn't have the cooldown reduction, so that's what Aquarius has going for him this game. But the way Space Station have been playing thus far is very methodical. They're taking these small little steps to outmaneuver Splyce because of the Janus. It's the threshold, it's these portals that are making it difficult for Splyce.
Well, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 portals. 4 players and 1 target. Space Station Gaming make the rotation of the short lane, but Splyce's Divios have one planned out already. Pyromancer is here, and that might be where Space Station turns their sights to, but Splyce are local and will deter.
Good vision from Splyce. That sentry ward on the top right mid Harpy, and then being able to scout out the intentions from Space Station. Yes, Divios is tanky with Warlock staff between Voidstone. Only tier 2 silver breastplate, giving him 35 physical protection. Is still not enough to prevent that 4-man gank from happening because there's only an Aegis from Divios. If he gets caught in the Wrath of Terror, Andinster's just going to start punching him down.
Yeah, this is a pseudo tank build. This is in between. Let's say there's a 0 to 10 tankiness scale, right? 10 being a Geb with all of the items, and a 0 being, I don't know, Hebo with all power, right? You're sitting kinda, I don't know, where do you put this guy? Maybe a 6, right? You're halfway.
He's still tanky, but where I was going with that is that he's playing a Rod that has high increased movement speed with his passive, but he's not a Cacolan that has a jump over a wall or a Bologna Osiris that can be able to do that, right? Once he gets rooted into place from Jeff Sylvanus, he's dead to rights.
Yeah, without a doubt. And, you know, It's funny because I think that you thought that you were presenting a different point, but I think they're two ends of the same candle in that Divios is a little bit less tanky, so Andy is going to be able to feed on him a little bit more so, and the next conversation is the fact, the lack of a true escape. I mean, even a lot of the other options are able to stun Andy out and then go in a different direction, and that's really what I have an issue with, Toli, is that this raw pick just doesn't bring any CC.
It definitely has only one with the slow, but once your purification beats that out of andinster, he's going to chase down the raw with his hasten katana. It doesn't matter that Divios is that fast because you're not outrunning Mercury with speed buff with the katana. It's just too much.
Yeah, way too much. BaRRaCCuDDa mid game just hitting level 20 there, the first one in the entire game.
Meanwhile, CycloneSpin still at level 18. He's been just kind of holding the laning phase, not wanting to fight, not wanting to box. Spacestation get the Gold Fury, which allows them, I don't know, a little bit of a 2,000 gold lead at the time, which has been transitioned to now 4,000, as BaRRa's been a little bit more proactive about making these jungle camp rotations.
Left side, Gold Fury respawning, and everybody going to be local for it, ready to party. That said, I'll back off. Splyce are the ones that are going to look at it. Now you can see the blue aura in the air. Means that Spacestation do have the vision. So they're going to be able to keep players off of that one.
Still trying to kind of battle for positioning. This Gold Fury is the next objective. But you always have to be mindful that if Spacestation want, they can burn the Fire Giant themselves. andinster, if he has somebody tank that Fire Giant, that Spacestation's in a gift-wrapped basket.
JeffHindla going to pause this one real quick, and just to go directly where you're at, tie game here, by the way. Not so much. Splyce trailing by about 3,000. Nice Gold Fury going the way of Spacestation Gaming in the earlier moments. But totally here talking about the ability of the team to go for the Fire Giant, and that's the beauty of this composition comprised of the Mercury and the Hachiman.
Yes.
Mercury already has the ability to boost himself up to the nth degree, but the banner just going to help him out even more.
That 15% additional boost goes a long way. We saw it in the last set, actually, where it was Dignitas versus SK Gaming. Fails was able to use not only the Hachiman passive of the banner, but also that Discordia passive where he was top damage. And any little bit of boost you give to a Mercury is going to melt the objectives so much quicker.
Exactly. Always looking towards the fastest god alive in order to take down those objectives just as quickly. Here, looking for the transition. Splyce looked really good in the early game. A lot of cohesion, a lot of just good team play. How do you expect to see them continue?
I think that they're going to try to just avoid this Waxing Moon, Mercury, Sonic Boom combination. That's the jungle fights that you want to avoid. Split it across. Make sure you're not grouped up at the same angle. Best and Divios, they want to play off of each other, but not too close where they're getting hit by both those abilities. So late game, avoid andinster, or just to make sure you peel for your backline. If andinster is getting off those free shots, something went wrong.
Yeah, got to be able to make sure to keep a track of the Mercury. He's one of the harder characters to really deal with and figure out. So when you're in these battles, just got to make sure you're able to deal with that. Moving on across the side, Spacestation Gaming, Aquarius on the Chang'e. What are your thoughts?
Even though he lost so many blue buffs this game, he's been able to really just bounce back. There was not that much action in terms of diving him under the tower line. They did force him to back level 1 prematurely, strip away like 3 consecutive blue buffs. He finally was able to defend his 4th blue buff and strip away Divios' 1 to the point where he's now in a fine position. He has the utility items that he needs to be able to make an impact with all of this cooldown reduction. I think it's time that Spacestation are going to lean on this first pick Chang'e.
We'll certainly see if it's able to come to fruition and do the work. Well, we're going to get back into game. Excellent. 22.5 on the clock. 5-4 read the kills. And Spacestation about 4K out of it.
And Aquarius going for a different style with this Lotus Crown. The good thing about the Chang'e versus the Ra is you're a mobile healer. Whereas Ra, you drop the healing blessing, and that's where everybody has to stay if they want to receive that healing. So the Lotus Crown going to be a little bit more effective. Not to mention the healing cooldown reduction between Aquarius and Divios' Ra. It's going to be just astronomically different.
Spacestation now, as I said, a slight lead. About 4,000, give or take. These teams really want to play it slow. We saw the teams earlier today take games in 25 minutes or less. Splyce and Spacestation, quite the opposite here. Want to cherish their solo lane choices. Level 20 on Aquarius, level 19 on Divios so far.
Still trying to make it happen on this goal Fury. Only the first one out of Space Station was secured, and that was when the moon aligned perfectly to make an eclipse because the two big bursty mid mages and solo mage wasn't there. So Space Station got away with a quick one. I don't think Space Station want to really mess around with all that burst damage, so they're taking their time. They're really leaning on once andinster hits level 20, finished off Deathbringer now, so that crit is going to start really rolling through. Divios and TheBest, honestly, needs to start worrying about this Mercury, so I wouldn't even be surprised if Best goes for potentially some sort of physical defense. More Guardian Mail comes to mind.
Divios, or excuse me, andinster in trouble. Look at Cyno just chase him down with the sprint. Give him the old-fashioned Rooney.
andinster had his ultimate if he wanted to use it, but with all that attention on the right, Divios not able to time that. Goes in Aror, finding a kill now. Aquarius dropped.
He's going to get a good one, being Divios, and CycloneSpin going to get JeffHindla after that one. Splyce able to pick up 2 kills there. And now watching the enemy take the Gold Fury, they'll go directly for the for the tier 1 tower, but then pass it, and they're going to go for the Fire Giant instead. This is a gutsy call.
Baskin still has ultimate. No, I'm a monster. Searing Pain coming off cooldown soon. Cyno gets a perfect root. Forces out the beads from Baskin. Fire Giant still only about 50% health through space of time, having to be used defensively because BaRRa is buying so much time.
BaRRa also being chased out by the Splyce boys. Fire Giant down to about 25. There's the ultimate from Ra. Nobody here. And Splyce get the Fire Giant.
It was a tough one, but they came through. They needed to have 2 separate 1v1s and not lose them. Great performance out of Cyno as he eliminates andinster during that Gold Fury to allow Splyce to get those 3 additional kills and then win the 1v1 against one of the best players in the world. Even beating the portal that was on the ground just for good measure, gets off the defensive ultimate from Janus, and by using that ultimate defensively, now you don't have to worry about the objective steal.
You know what's interesting, Totally? Sanoshore, the ex-console player coming here, I'm never worried about him, and perhaps I should be. There are better junglers in Cyno, I think everybody can agree. And there are worse junglers that I think everybody can agree. But I'm never concerned about Cyno, and I think that's a positive. He does have his bad games, but I feel like those bad games are easier to ignore because when he makes the impact, he really makes the impact.
The thing is, he's also playing his most comfortable god. It is the Erlang Shen, where I believe we heard in an interview earlier last week where everyone knows this is Cynoshore's god. That's what everyone is planning for.
But here's the beauty of it for Cyno. Well, hold on. Space Station's doing something funny.
They're trying to collapse, but there's 4 members from Splyce. This is not a staggered effort. This is an all-in.
Ultimate right here. 4 players on Splyce. Fire Giant around their waist. Don't forget, Divios backline going to be in some trouble. CycloneSpin has to get out of there. And Baskin takes care of Big D. andinster with the ultimate, spreading through the enemy team. And Space Station get one. Cyno wants to turn things around. Trouble against Aror. The crit from BaRRa out of control. And Aquarius continues what his Hunter started.
Space Station are getting back in the game, and it's barely escaped. Aquarius will take the portal to buy a moment. Best ultimate fizzled away, so it wasn't even fruitful whatsoever. The Aegis from Divios was just not enough to really survive this one.
The problem there, I really think, was Splyce were not ahead. And Space Station didn't care about the Fire Giant.
They have the late game Mercury. That's all they need. You catch somebody slipping, as Cyno was 5 seconds away from that team fight, maybe even 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And a Divios that was in the front line, they were playing as if Splyce were not or Space Station were not going to defend the tier 1. So everyone's casually walking down the mid or the dual lane as Divios playing the Raw. we mentioned it, he doesn't have the escape.
Not at all.
He doesn't have the jumps to get over those walls. So once he's in the front line of his team, that through space and time caught Splyce with their pants down.
And just could not really figure a way on out of there. Rod of Asclepius, the last choice for Divios. I guess he still has the blessing, so the second to last choice. We'll see which direction he goes in. Mid lane is the direction Splyce is going in. Cyno going to taunt up too and take a bunch of damage himself. There goes Andy right on through, cutting best all the way down. But the tower already down for the count. That's what this team was looking for. Aqua gets one. The ultimate out of the carry will be enough to put her safe and sound, but Aror cannot fly. 2 players for a tier 1 tower. Not a good look for Splyce.
The beads were down from best, so once he got hit by that sonic boom, Unstable Vortex narrowly clips him, does so much damage that he has to use his ultimate defensively to retreat with the increased movement speed. Now, with Spacestation in a 5-on-3 situation, it doesn't matter who has the Fire Giant. This late game Mercury with Hachiman is putting in the work.
Mercury just a very strong selection. A very, very strong selection. I expect to see more of him. Not just in this specific region, but I think in general, Mercury going to be a bit more of an impact player, especially if we're going to see a move away from the traditional tank. Divios and Aquarius are more tank than I may have anticipated, but they are still by no stretch of the imagination a 10 on the tank scale, right? This is not a Kakulin solo. This is not a Hercules solo. But at the same time, it's also not one of those Anubises that go into your solo games in your gold rank game.
Sure.
This is somewhere in between where Splyce and Spacestation essentially have what I would call battle mages, where they are looking to be a healer, they are looking to do some damage, but also kind of quasi frontline. It's a neat hybrid build, and Splyce and Spacestation adapting to that. Spacestation perhaps one step better by going into the Mercury.
And the thing is, when you're... Oh, hold that thought, though, because through space and time being used, Aurora is the focus. But with that Mad Guy's Cloak, a lot more difficult to pop that one off cleanly. JeffHindla needs to be the one to find the root or the pull, because you don't want to use the Waxing Moon when that Mad Guy's Cloak is still up. And we were talking about the tankiness level from this Raw compared to other gods. Warriors just have higher base health per level, higher protections per level, and that's additive once you get up to that level 20 marker.
Got to keep that one in mind. Splyce inching up, this time down almost 10,000 gold to Space Station. Space Station still giving them the, I'll say, respect. I don't want to assume they're giving any respect. On the same side, I don't want to assume they're giving any disrespect either. But what I can tell you that they're doing is they're definitely playing this one cautiously, more so than the original time.
Gonna be a big
trouble. There's a big ultimate from andinster.
Sonic boom in the backline. Space Station stealing away as Best is trying to run. He is gonna fall down alongside Divios.
I'm not surprised at the steal, and Aror shouldn't be surprised at the kill. Knock up, CycloneSpin, Aegis, but knocked all the way down. Great job from andinster.
This is it. This is going to be the comeback. That's it.
Everybody dead. I didn't even realize that one, Anatoly. Great job from Space Station Gaming here to find the kills in a timely manner and just transition into where the Titan lands. 32 on the dot, 20 kills in total, and Space Station with over half of them. Great job coming out from the North American hopefuls. These guys looked really strong there.
And in this particular boxing match, Space Station were down the first 3 rounds, but taking their blows, bouncing back once, you know, the intermission, listening to their coach a little bit in the background, getting a refreshment, whatever the case was, they fought valiantly throughout the rest of the game. All they needed was a small opening, and the door bursted wide opening. It was very questionable, actually, why Splyce forced that Fire Giant in the first place. I guess they wanted to kind of bait that out, try to catch somebody slipping, but they couldn't reset it fast enough.
Who's Space Station's coach? They're coachless at the moment, aren't they?
No, they definitely have a coach. It's just not on the top of my mind right now.
All right, well,
I'm drawing a blank line.
I'll go with Shandora. So I'm just picturing the typical like boxing.
Ghost.
Is it Ghost?
I
know
Ghost.
he's their 6th, but anyway, I'm just picturing the stereotypical boxing coach, like, you can do it, get out there, you can do it, Rocky,
Adrian.
No, that's actually Rocky himself saying it.
Who's the MVP, guys?
That's my job.
Let's go to the desk.
is totally allowed to do that?
Apparently.
Are we switching jobs now too?
Apparently, yeah. I'm going to do all the tier 2 and all the hard analysis.
Perfect.
Andinster is really good at hitting big ults. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, please. We start with the chair 1.
Go ahead.
In this situation.
Start us off.
To you. Spacestation Gaming find the victory here in game number 1. Splyce put up a solid effort here, Finch, but just couldn't quite close it out.
Yeah, there were a couple times where Splyce were making some of the right moves. You're trying to go for the Fire Giants, trying to strip them away. They just weren't done cleanly enough, Ryan. And Spacestation played so well as a team. Andinster with his ultimate for the initiations, Baskin using through space and time to reposition the team perfectly. They played around that ultimate at every opportunity, continually shredding the backline. When did Best get to use his ultimate offensively? He was constantly using it defensively to get away.
Pretty much the entire time. And on the other side of the mages for Splyce, I should say, I suppose, Divios on the Ra, this Ra solo sort of pick. It worked out in the early game. Splyce actually got their pressure there. Their mid-jungle team fights were working out very nicely, but ultimately it just didn't end up bringing enough in these late-game team fights. It felt like Divios didn't quite remember he was on a mage at times. Like he was frontlining in dual lane at one point. He was often the first to fall. How did that work out for Splyce overall?
Oh, like specifically had the Divios on that
you
raw
as the
pick.
chair
Right,
two.
I'm the chair
Yeah.
two. It's my job to talk about that.
That's what I'm asking you about.
I mean, it worked out well for them. The big difference in the team composition to me was that they still had Cyno on the Erlang Shen right in the jungle, and so you'd think they're going to be able to get away with having sort of a tankier presence, even though they're running that mage over in the solo lane. But that didn't quite come to fruition. Cyno still very much played like an assassin. He actually did a great job harassing the backline for Spacestation Gaming. It's just the rest of his team wasn't able to win the 4v4 or the 4v the Fire Giant where they're using Aegises or whatever is happening. Even though they had that advantage, right, I feel like they weren't able to make the most out of it.
No, it didn't end up coming to fruition overall, and a lot of it is because of how well Spacestation played and how well Baskin played in particular. He is your Game 1 MVP on the side of Spacestation. Look, this is Spacestation, Baskin's playing, so the chances of him winning MVP are stupid high.
And he earned them just about every single time. So yes, Baskin gets the kill there. It's almost the icing on the cake. Baskin throws those through space and times to create multiple portals for Spacestation to use to be able to weave in and out of the fights. That is almost more important than the damage. The damage is really darn good, and you want that. But creating those avenues for the rest of the team to kind of slide in and out of the fights, I feel like that's almost more important.
That's a great point, Chair 2, John Finch. That isn't often brought up when it comes to Janus ult. It is its utility that it brings, and if you can get damage, good. It's mostly about that maneuverability it provides to your team. Let's go into pick.